good morning to you and welcome back to your favorite dial. This is Voice of the People, 96.1 FM, 31 minutes gone past the hour of 9 o'clock. And of course, it's still the 5th day of February 2024. My name is Simeon Sunday, in case you are guessing who's talking to you. And of course, it's time for us to talk business. You know, every weekday at this time of the day, we get to talk about business, talk about the stock market and the equity market, get to talk about business that has to do with oil and gas and the energy sector. And of course, today is no different as we're bringing you all the business stories right here on one platform. And of course, talking about the business stories for today, there are a couple of them we'll be checking out. I'll be talking about the duty increment. And of course, spot FX rate adoption has now thrown the market into panic. This is one of the stories we'll be checking on today. And also, NAFEM is saying dollar supply rises by 180% as banks sell $440 million. And also, we'll be talking about the power sector, where power generation crashes to about 59 megawatts after fresh grid collapse. And we're talking about, the federal government and state debt that has now gotten to almost 107 trillion naira. And we know that the naira, for raises loans at the moment. This is a challenging time for the country. I'll be telling you the implication of this, the debt as well as the fall of the naira on Nigerian loan. And also, we'll be talking about, important updates as regards the agricultural sector as agro exporters mull task force to stop multiple charges. And the CBN is now making a move to salvage the naira. And a huge question is being asked as to, will this move salvage the naira or will it even mar, the naira? These are some questions we'll be asking and answering today right here on Business Today. And also we're talking about the FX crisis that has now reignited questions over NNPC's dollar remittance. As well, the stock market have actually bounced back and investors are now earning in trillions of naira. Great stories for Nigerian investors. And also we'll be talking about the statement credited to Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, who is now saying the president's renewed hope economic plan is now dashing the hope of Nigeria. So these are the stories we'll be checking out this morning right here on Business Today. But before we get straight to the stories, let's check out the quote for today.
Here is our business quote for the day.
And talking about the business quote for today, this is according to Anthony Robbins. Anthony Robbins says, every problem is a gift. Without problems, we would not grow. You know, the idea that one can go through life without conflict or issues is unrealistic. And some might actually dream of a frictionless ride through the world as the ideal journey. But without some form of pushback, growth is impossible. So it is these problems that we face which build our character, engage our creativity, and build humility. So basically, for business people, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business person, a problem is actually a gift. You know, most times don't see a problem as a problem. See it as a challenge that you need to overcome. Until you develop such mindset, you will always see problems as, as a devastating effect to your growth. Rather, problem shouldn't be a devastating effect to your growth. Rather, it should be a stepping stone to your growth. Because most of the things we see now, most business persons actually look out for problems. And they find a way to prefer solution to those problems, which you and I as customers or clients now buy the solutions to the problem. So right now, if you want to be business minded, look for a problem around you and find a solution to it, and people will definitely pay you for the solution you found to the problem. So see problem as a gift. That is it right there on the business quote for today. It's time for us to get to some of the stories we'll be checking today right here on Business Today.
world's biggest business stories, stock market updates, forex, aviation reports, and market updates, all in one place. Business Today, only on VOP 96.1 FM. Weekdays by 9:15 a.m. Don't miss it.
You're welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. This is still Business Today right here on the morning ride on Voice of the People 96.1 FM. Of course, we are your voice, and now you got a voice with us. And now let's get straight to the business stories we are, monitoring for today. And let me start with the renewed hope agenda of the president as a former vice president of the country, as well as the presidential candidate of the PDP, is kicking against some of the policies of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And according to Atiku Abubakar, he's saying, the economic plan of the president has now dashed the hope of Nigerians. And former vice president of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, has now slammed President Bola Tinubu-led administration, particularly its renewed hope economic plans, adding that it has dashed the hope of the citizens. Atiku, who actually was the runner-up at the 2023 presidential election, noted that the economic policies of Tinubu are shrinking small businesses and even causing multinational companies to exit the country in droves. Atiku made this accusation just yesterday, writing on his X account, formerly known as Twitter, emphasizing that Tinubu needs to explore other alternatives to address the economic challenges the country is currently going through before the economy sinks deeper into the abyss, according to him. And I have a copy of, I'm looking at the quote, the statement Atiku Abubakar wrote yesterday on his X platform. And according to, I'll just read a part of the excerpt of the quote. It says, the economy's performance has in recent weeks and months been a subject of intense, discourse among Nigerian citizens at home and also abroad. And he went on to say Nigerians are gravely concerned, and rightly so, that Tinubu's poor response, in quotes, to Nigeria's economic challenges is setting the stage for a prolonged and deeper domestic economic crisis. He also went on to talk about the intense cost of living pressures that the economy has created, thereby creating more misery for the poor in towns. And that is what he has said, and also in villages. And there's hunger in the land as basic commodities, including bread, is not even becoming out of reach for an average Nigerian. So this is what, is saying. And speaking further, the former vice president actually said the administration's 2024 budget proposal lacks concrete ideas and action. And of course, the budget will not even revamp the economy as well. And the budget will definitely keep sinking the country into abyss if nothing is done about it. And what you should know about all of this is that we know that during the administration of President Bola Tinubu, from the first day he got sworn in, he removed the subsidy on fuel. And subsequently, after a few months later, he announced the floating of the naira against the dollar in the foreign exchange market as part of his reforms to revamp the economy. And meanwhile, we've seen that the reforms have resulted in what some have actually called mounting inflationary pressure. And also, we've seen escalating high cost of living in the country. And recently, we saw the inflation rate put at about 28.92% as of December 2023. And right now, the naira is depreciated by over 100% since the implementation of the floating policy by President Bola Tinubu's administration, and therefore it is adding so much pressure on the economy at the moment. And we know that the government have claimed that they are working to address these economic challenges, and now Atiku Abubakar and other opposition leaders now believe that this administration has no clue on how to fix them. This is what Atiku has actually said in the post he made on Twitter. And now the question we are asking is this a valid point made by Atiku Abubakar, or should we keep waiting further to see if the economy will bounce back? Because right now the naira is having a free fall at the moment. We've seen a lot of investors leaving the country, the likes of Shell that have shut down its offshore operation. We've seen the likes of GSK leaving the country. So many companies, even in Akwa Ibom State, we saw the Jubilee syringe factory shutting down operation. These are critical, sectors and manufacturers in our economy. And if these guys are leaving the country in their droves and business are shutting down, you get to ask yourself, is the economic policy being put in place by the president truly working? What is, are they really putting a round peg in a round hole, or they are putting a square peg in a square hole, rather than do certain things they are doing the otherwise? Anyway, key economists are advising the president. We just hope that in the coming weeks and months, we get to see the economy bounce back, because that is, the earnest prayer of Nigerians. And away from that, let's also talk about the report about the duty increase, as spot FX rate adoption has now thrown the market into panic. And right now, customs are now saying they are merely obeying, CBN's, directive. Now, 50 kg of bag of rice, might actually cost up to 100,000. That is what some individuals are saying at the moment, if nothing is done about, the increase in spot FX rate. The abduction of the spot foreign exchange rate in computing duty on imported commodities has now thrown importers and the entire business community into a panic mode. And for the first time, the Nigerian Customs Service raised the import duty exchanged twice within 24 hours on Friday under the guise of obeying the central bank directive. And we see that the unusual adjustment raised the going duties across commodity lines by about 48.5% in less than 2 days. And recall that, the Nigerian Customs Service adjusted the rate from 951 naira 94 kobo to a dollar to 1,356 naira 8 kobo on Friday. And also, the market was yet to even fully digest this particular decision by the Customs Service. And almost immediately, they raised further by over 4% on Saturday, after an increment from 951 naira to 1,356 naira to a dollar on Friday. By Saturday, they increased it again by 1,413 naira to a dollar. And in responding to this, the Customs Service said the service is simply adhering to the official market as directed by the CBN. But looking at this, we know that with the liberalization of the foreign exchange market, Naira has actually seen a sharp depreciation since last June, when the president made this policy announcement. And in fact, we've seen so far since then, custom rates have mimicked the spot segment of the FX market. Explaining it is not a decision it has control over at the moment. So something ought to be done about this as soon as possible. I even heard a statement credited to Dr. Muda Yusuf, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, that's CPPE. He's actually said drastic upward review of the exchange rate for the computation of import duties would further fuel inflation, because at the end of the day, if import duties is being increased, the average consumer will now be the one to bear the brunt of this increment, because at the end of the day, after they import things into the country, they will definitely add whatever difference it is from the cost of the goods they imported, the cost of transportation, and also the duties they are paying on that particular product. And the CPPE boss is saying, please, the federal government needs to reconsider the increment of this import duties at the moment. Hence, inflation will be worrisome at the moment. And still talking about the dollar, right now we've seen the dollar supply rising by 180%, as bank has now sold about $440 million. This is according to NAFEM. And dollar supply in the official foreign exchange market rose by 180.59% to about $440.13 million on Friday. This is as we've seen the Naira close the week at 1,435 Naira to a dollar on Friday, after what was really a turbulent week for the Naira. And according to data from the FMDQ, our security exchange, forex turnover rose by 180.59%, to $440.13 million. On Friday, from on Thursday earlier, it was about $156.86 million. However, aside from commercial banks, the Central Bank of Nigeria, oil firms, and even multinationals also sell their dollar at nothing. And right now, we've seen the improved liquidity following moves by the Central Bank of Nigeria to stabilize, the FX rate. Before closing at 1,435 to a dollar on Friday, the naira traded at, intraday high at about 1,526 naira to a dollar, and low of 838 naira 96 kobo to a dollar. And looking at all of this, we've seen dollar supply rising because this is as a result of the CBN asking all deposit money banks to trade their dollar. And we've seen an increment in dollar, the dollar supply increase in the past few days after that CBN policy announcement. And away from that, let's move on to the energy sector, as we've seen power generation crashed to 59 megawatts, and this is as a result of a fresh grid collapse, the first in the year 2024. We've seen power generation on the national grid crash to about 59.9 megawatts around 12 p.m. on Sunday, as the country's grid witnessed a nationwide collapse. And data obtained from the Federal Ministry of Power, show that electricity generation on the grid actually plunged from about 659 megawatts at 11 a.m. It dropped drastically to almost 60 megawatts as at noon on Sunday, as power distributors lost supply from the grid. And this actually led to widespread blackout across the country, as even the discos blamed it on the collapse of the grid managed by the Transmission Company of Nigeria, which is an agency of the federal government. We saw, discos like the Kaduna disco confirming that the loss of bulk power supply has left areas like Kaduna, Sokoto, Zamfara, and Kebbi states in darkness on Sunday. And even here in Abuja as well, we saw the AEDC, put up a statement on his verified, Instagram platform, talking about, the collapse of the national grid, and that is why there hasn't been power. But right now, we've seen that, power has been restored, and based on the public notice written by, issued by AEDC as of yesterday, they said that the management of AEDC wishes to inform its valued customers that the power outage being experienced is as a result of system failure from the national grid. And of course, they assured their customers that they are working with the relevant stakeholders to restore power as soon as the grid is stabilized. And as at yesterday evening, we saw power being restored, even though across the nation there was still some pocket of blackout across, even here in the capital city Abuja as well. So now the question a lot of people are asking, and I am also asking, is what is actually causing the incessant grid collapse of the country? In 2023 alone, we saw the number of times the power grid, collapsed in the country. Collapsed to, over 5 times just in 2023. And now 2024, in February, we've witnessed another collapse. We just hope that, decisive action is taken by the federal government when it comes to energy issues in the country. Some have actually said, what is wrong with the federal government investing in renewable energy sources rather than depending on, gas-powered energy source and all of that? Because we've seen a fluctuation in the, production of gas at the moment. If this is also a problem, the energy sector will deeply be affected. And some experts have actually advised the federal government to consider other forms of energy supply, renewable energy supply. Nigeria has strong wind. Why are we not considering having wind turbines supply power rather than everyone hooked up to the national grid? And when it collapses, the entire nation is in, total darkness. This is something this administration needs to take very seriously. And away from energy crisis in the country, let's get to talk about, the debts Nigeria that is owing, and that's talking about the federal government and the state debt. As the federal government and state debt has now neared about 107 trillion naira, and naira fall has also raised the loans. Nigeria's total debt, that's federal government and state loan, may now hit at least 107.38 trillion naira, soon following the approval of fresh borrowings for the federal government and new securitization of the Central Bank of Nigeria's 7.3 trillion naira ways and means advances. This is as the Senate, as of December 2023, approved President Bola Tinubu's request to borrow $7.8 billion. And also talking about borrowing, we've seen this same administration as well borrow so much and putting Nigeria in huge debt at the moment. We also saw 100 million euro as part of the federal government's 2022-2024 borrowing plan. And according to the president, the Federal Executive Council under former President Muhammadu Buhari approved the loan facility on May 15, 2023 to finance critical infrastructure, health, education, agriculture, even insecurity and other sectors of the country. And while asking for the approval, the president said the foreign loan was necessary to bridge the gap, the financial gap, and return normalcy to economic activities in the country. And with the borrowings as we've seen so far, the question is, have we seen this really bridge the financial gap? Have we seen normalcy return to the country? Have we seen economic activities thriving again? This is a huge question, we are asking. And if the answer is in the negative, then the federal government needs to now, have some form of introspection and get to see where best to channel some of these loans. They are borrowing both internally and from external, sources as well. And we saw that the African Development Bank and the World Bank even indicated interest to assist Nigeria in mitigating economic shocks and recent reforms, with a sum of $1 billion. Afrexim Bank, that's the African Development Bank, promised $1 billion. We saw the World Bank, also promising $2 billion respectively to help assist the economy. We just hope that even when this money is received, is being put to proper use. So at the end of the day,